So we're here at the Small Cells World Summit at the JDSU stand, and joining us is Paul Gowans. Paul, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Now, key challenge with small cells is where to put them. Operators have quite a few issues from time to time with placement. So how can JDSU solve that?
Well, one of the first issues about small cells before you even kind of get going is where do you put them? And it sounds like a kind of obvious question, you know, the location of small cells. But we've recently done a mobile data trends report with a major operator, and there were some interesting statistics that came out of that, which may not be the same for every operator, but it does show that sometimes what you think's happening may not be what's happening. So, for example, over 50% of the data is consumed by 1% of the users. You might think, maybe 1% sounds quite small, but it's certainly significant. But also important about location was over 50% of the data was consumed by less than 1% of the users in 1% of the locations. So now you've got it down to, okay, actually it was 0.35% of the locations that were consuming over 50% of the data. In fact, nearly all the data was consumed in just 10%. So when we're looking at locating small cells, it's not everybody and it's not everywhere. So what you need to be thinking about is looking at trends, how people are kind of migrating, how they're changing kind of habits, and what the big users are in those key locations.
And obviously, like any business, time is money for operators, and this is where you can help.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the whole cost envelope of bringing up, for example, like small cells and distributed antenna systems is really important. One of the things that we've noticed recently is a lot more fibre getting used. So you've got CPRI now in the front haul carrying RF. Now, typically before you would have had to use multiple devices for getting access to the fibre, getting access to the CPRI, getting access to the RF. What operators need to be now looking at getting solutions that can integrate those capabilities together. You know, so that someone going along to turn up a cell site can press as few buttons as possible, validate the cell site is operational, and then move on. You know, give it effectively its birth certificate. So marrying those capabilities of RF and fibre in some of the solutions that they use is really important for them. And then the other thing I would say is that quite often that data gets lost once a small set is brought into service. You know, the data just gets kind of thrown away. But there are ways and solutions out there where you can save that information to the cloud so that later on, let's say there might be some problems with that cell site, you can compare what the results are today with what they then turned up and do an analysis based on that.
And how can operators scale up their small cell deployments?
Well, the scale is important, right? Because we're now at potentially millions of endpoints rather than thousands of endpoints. So being able to scale solutions that manage the whole customer experience end to end becomes important, and that means being able to look at every event, you know, every service that's gone on, potentially geolocate that. Again, getting back to the key location points, and also if you can take, say, core-based data around services and applications, you know, so the app-aware data, and correlate and integrate that with RAN-based data about location, you've got a really rich source of insight end-to-end into the visibility of what's happening in your network. And that can only help both your own OPEX environment, but importantly the customer experience.
And it's a new era for JDSU. What changes are happening with the company?
Yeah, it is. It's an exciting time for us. We're splitting the company up in calendar Q3 of this year. We're going to have one part of the organisation called Lamentum, which is focused on our fibre optics components. The part that I'll be evolving to is called Viavi Solutions. So all the capabilities around visibility and insight and analytics for operators and enterprise and network equipment manufacturers will be Viavi Solutions. So it's an exciting time for us, and it will really allow us to kind of focus on some of these key areas that our customers are investing in.
Excellent stuff. Paul Gowans, thanks very much.
Thank you very much.